The Four Knights of the Apocalypse E. Chapter 156, Looking for Friends. And for the first time we have a couple moment between Elizabeth and Meliodas, but the conversation between the two is rather serious, since the current situation is unfortunately quite critical. Worried, Elizabeth expresses her concern for Merlin, wondering where she is at the moment, what she is doing, and especially what she is thinking. Meliodas admits that although they've known her for a long time, he still can't read what she's thinking. But he expresses a certain joy at knowing that the rumors of her serving as Arthur's right-hand man were false, and Elizabeth believes it would be a shock for her to see Arthur as he is now. The King of Lion regrets that unfortunately they don't have a complete understanding of Camelot, and for Sin the situation only gets worse as time goes on, citing that unfortunately they still don't have a complete grasp of what the Eternal Kingdom is, and that they are constantly exposed to invasion. So Meliodas confesses that if they had Merlin's wisdom and power, the bore sin of gluttony, if she were with them, he's sure they could find a way to overcome this situation. But he's aware that there's no point in moping around, especially as a father, seeing his children and others giving their all. So whatever happens, there's still hope. We then change scenery, where the annual Harvest Festival is taking place on the Great Avenue of Lion, leaving our boy Percival dazzled. After coming back from the dead, and after a very difficult time for his friends, there was nothing better than enjoying a relaxed evening. However, it was still difficult to completely forget about the problems. And this was clearly visible on the faces of Anne and Nations. Anne voiced this concern, commenting to Nations that in the last 2 years, Britannia has been constantly suffering from disappearances, the loss of fields and trade routes, clearly making life more difficult for those people. But even so, those people need to have hope or they won't be able to resist. Nations tells them that they have taken on a great responsibility and that they need to do something as soon as possible. However, Anne wonders if he won't say that Percival is to blame. But the herbalist asks if she really thinks so. But before she can answer, Donnie arrives by surprise, saying that he's frightened by Percival's growth. But on the other hand, he's relieved to see that Nations hasn't changed at all. However, Nations can no longer say the same about Donnie, pointing out that he has not only changed in size but also in attitude. But before the discussion turns into an argument, Percival calls for Donnie, saying that he needs to see the show that's going on there, and the excited boy hopes that they don't mind a big professional watching them. Nations gets pensive, and Anne, for her part, says that she thinks the opposite is true, because she honestly thinks that he has changed a lot. However, she admits that she can't explain in words how he's changed, but that she really feels he's not the same Nations as before. After saying this, she presses the herbalist, asking him if she was wrong. Nations nervously says he's not sure what she means. At that moment, Nations remembers the time Percival came back to save him and what he felt at that moment. Then he asks Anne, "Am I so different?" But even though Nations doesn't say anything, Anne seems to understand that something has happened, yet she reaches out to him anyway, asking him thank you for bringing Percival back. And Nations, embarrassed but happy, shakes Anne's hand. On the other side, we have Donnie enjoying one of the benefits of old age. Percival, meanwhile, is enjoying one of the event's pastimes. And guess what? Target shooting, Percival's specialty, only not, and if he hits the center, he'll win a special prize. So he gets ready, concentrates on the target, and then shoots. And to everyone's surprise, he incredibly manages to repeat the same feat from 2 years ago. And now Nations and Anne have discovered the secret behind Donnie's old hairstyle. Well, some things will never change. But while Donnie is running after Percival, something unusual happens. Suddenly the ground starts to shake. Donnie is completely freaked out because it looks like an earthquake. So did Anne and Nations, but Percival protected and reassured both of them at that moment. However, the reason for that tremor was because of yet another imminent disappearance. This time, it hit the kingdom of Darkmund, the kingdom founded by Gryamore and Veronica, which suddenly disappeared. This arouses the fury of Meliodas, who impulsively slams his fists on the table while Elizabeth looks on in silence. The event also triggers a commotion in the castle, where we see two veterans, Gilthunder and Hauser, after 2 years. They impatiently go to Meliodas to ask permission so that they can immediately infiltrate the Eternal Kingdom. However, Meliodas won't let Hauser or Gilthunder leave the kingdom, because as cardinal and captain of the Holy Knights, their duty is to unite the Holy Knights and reassure the people of Lyon. But even so, Hauser insists, asking for permission to send a large troop at once to the Eternal Kingdom, while Gilthunder, for his part, laments that it's been a year since he's heard from his son, so let her at least allow him to go. Meliodas says he understands how he feels and proposes to redesign a plan. However, at that moment everyone is surprised, with someone from afar shouting, "King Meliodas, we are going to the Eternal Kingdom now. We're all ready." These were the words of Percival, who was accompanied by his friends. However, the Cardinal and the Great Holy Knight, surprised, believe that this is too hasty, as Percival has recently been revived, and that first they need to gather the other knights of the prophecy. Percival, however, promises that they will find all the others, and that this time they will stop King Arthur. In those words, that stance was enough for Meliodas to be sure of one thing, just as it was for Percival, who didn't even have to wait for the king's answer, because the look on his face said it all. To Hauser and Gilthunder's surprise, the king granted permission for Percival and his team. Once again, Meliodas places the fate of Britannia in the hands of Percival and his friends. The future of Britannia depends on these children. Continued in the next chapter, entitled Lives That Attract